Welcome, welcome, welcome. After a 1-week hiatus for that big turkey day last week, we are back with my co-host, Alex Grossman. And we have a wonderful guest, but before we get into that, and before I hype him up, he needs no hyping. However, we will discuss a couple of issues. First of all, this is the Ask Brien radio show, AskBrien.com on 1220 AM and 98.1 FM. And that's my New Yorker attitude, or, excuse me, voice. All right, so here we are back. People that have not listened to the Ask Brien radio show in the past, you're missing a lot.
A lot.
You've missed a lot of business lessons. You've learned how to put Facebook ads together. You've learned how to create a marketing plan. You've learned how to create a business from $0 to $1 million. You've learned a whole bunch of different business issues, because each week we teach you a business lesson. You've learned about influencers, who those people are. Any of these things that we're discussing right now, they're all available if you go to the KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM website, where you can download, and I encourage you to download any of the podcasts. You can also catch us through YouTube, and we're currently on Facebook Live. So if you've missed any of the shows because you just figured it out, well, it's never too late to learn business. And that's what we're all about, teaching you business. We're not a business professor. We're dealing with real live examples, real live situations. We don't make stuff up and write it in a book and say, answer the question. That's for academia. We're not academia. We're here for practical business solutions. And the Ask Brien website is a part of our system, ecosystem. So the Ask Brien website is AskBrien.com. And if you go to the site, you can ask another business owner a question so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you're a dry cleaner in Atlanta and a dry cleaner in Santa Clarita, you might still have the same issue. Somebody left a fur coat here 9 months ago. What should I do? So another business owner may be able to solve that business problem for you, and you can ask that business owner to help you out. But you can also go to an expert. Hey, I'm new to Facebook advertising. I don't know what's going on. You can find a Facebook expert. And every expert has their own profile. They've been vetted. They're not allowed to be on the site unless they have certain criteria. Some of the criteria may be 10,000 hours in a specialized subject, so we know that they have some background in the area. Sometimes it may just be that they have an accolades, and their background is just such that we've determined that they're qualified to be an expert. But everybody has to apply individually to become an expert. Every expert is allowed to put blog posts, ebooks, videos, and schedule webinars on our master calendar, where users can actually go to the website, pick out the date and time that they want to listen to a webinar, and it'll go right on their calendar. So it's all about teaching business owners how to solve business problems. Sometimes they can do it at their home watching a video. Sometimes they have to wait for the webinar, or sometimes they can just ask a question to other business owners or experts, and they'll get an answer. And the Ask Brien radio show is just a part of that ecosystem. And that's what Ask Brien's all about.
Boots on the ground advice.
Boots on the ground advice. And do not reinvent the wheel. If you did something, most likely somebody else has already done it before. Why spend the countless hours trying to figure it out? And that's what we're all about. And we have a great guest today. I'm not going to go through his whole resume, but he has started out in, I believe it was marketing, if I'm not mistaken, and he has become a world-renowned person, and I'm hoping I'm going to pronounce his name correctly, Joe Jacober. And Joe, are you there?
I am, thank you.
Okay, so first, wanted to ask a couple of questions for you. How long have you been in business?
Our accelerator?
No, yourself.
Myself?
Yeah.
A little over 25 years.
So you got that silver anniversary going there. And
I do, and I always say over because it's probably a little more than 25.
I say the same thing about my law background. All right. So I don't want to go. This is not a resume class here, but I just want to go over some of your accomplishments. So where did you start out in business?
I actually started out working for a regional ad agency. So I started, to your point earlier about marketing, I started my career doing advertising, and I absolutely love the advertising business, but I wanted to be part of the entire process. And so I left advertising and was hired to launch a new product for the Dial Corporation, Dial soap. And that new product was Liquid Dial. It was the first antibacterial hand soap in the market. They needed somebody that had a little bit of advertising experience. I want to be more engaged in the overall marketing process and running a business, and so it was a perfect match.
Well, and that's just actually going from one side to the other, because when you're working in an ad agency, you're trying to bring in the Dial clients. You're trying to bring in those people to become your clients, and you're trying to figure out ways and methods to, okay, this is a good sales program. Whereas when you work for in-house, which is what I call working for Dial, it's a different side of the spectrum. Now you're going to ad agencies and saying, what do you got for your plans? What do you think is a way to launch? Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, we tend to, in the consumer products business, we tend to focus on agencies that have been there, done that, because there's different types of agencies that specialize in different types of things, and consumer products is definitely one of those areas that people specialize in.
Now, first of all, the first thing is, how did you guys decide to come up with an antibacterial liquid soap when everybody else was using these ivory bars?
Well, it was kind of interesting. Yeah, different soap for different folks. But really what it was back then, it was pretty much a 99-cent marketplace. Everything was 99 cents. It was pretty basic type hand cleaning. And what we really did is we looked at the opportunity for how do you take the history and the legacy of Dial, which was the antibacterial deodorancy aspects, right, and we reformulated it into a hand soap, different actives and different things, but we made it into an antibacterial hand soap because we felt that it was actually did a better job of cleaning, a deeper job of cleaning. And I'm going to tell you right now, moms loved it. If you ever, the two things I used to hear was, I always put it in my kid's bathroom, and I always put it by the kitchen sink because I know I'm getting germs when I'm cutting up chicken and things like that. And so it really was a pretty easy sell to the consumer.
But when you put it in the kids' room, how do you know they're using it?
Well, it was gold, so it was pretty easy to see at the bottom of the sink.
Playing off that fear, uncertainty, and doubt of those microbial organisms that people are so afraid of. Fantastic marketing, in my opinion.
Thank you.
It was, and it's is Dial the number one brand product for antibacterial today, or has someone overtaken that?
That's a great question. It was back when I was involved. It's been about 20 years since I was with Dial, so I'm assuming they're still at the top of the game.
Well, they should be. You had a great launch, and you put them in the right direction. So it's once you're on top, you can get knocked out, but it certainly is a great way to start.
Yeah, I mean,
order of entry is a key part of the consumer products business. If you're the first,
absolutely. To
your exact point, it's harder to knock the top guy off the shelf.
Yeah, the incumbent, the pioneer, everything that really you want to do. I mean, that's what's really exciting about building a business, is having a great idea and being the first one out with that idea, and then let everybody else catch up, or just keep them a little bit behind so that you always have the next great idea, right?
You mean like Apple and the IBM PC?
Hey, that's don't go so close to my heart there, Pete.
Mr. Apple. Apple started.
Yeah, did a great job. So a little bit more about your background, Joe. So, you did a lot of different things, right? Dial was one of them. What other companies were you with? And it's all in that consumer products area where you really had the most success?
Exactly. And it's really what I enjoy doing the most. I mean, there's a whole unique aspect of building brands and with consumers and things like that I've enjoyed the most. And so when I left Dial, a couple years later, the CEO of Dial left, and we actually partnered up as well and did. We bought a couple brands, turned them around, and sold them. Then I kind of went off on my own, started doing my own things. I had actually bought Pert Plus shampoo and Sure antiperspirants from Procter & Gamble, and I put together a team. We turned those around. And I've done tea companies, I've done juice companies, all with the idea of building great brands, and then obviously increasing the value of each of those investments as we went along.
So what's the most important thing that a brand needs to be successful?
By far, the number one thing is you got to connect with consumers. One of the things, people always say to me is, oh, you marketing people, you always make us buy things that we don't want. I said, it's exactly the opposite. I said, it's nearly impossible to buy something that somebody doesn't want. What we do, and the ones that are really successful, are providing benefits and value to consumers that they already want, that maybe they just didn't know that they wanted. So a good example is that antibacterial soap. It didn't exist. Consumers weren't asking for an antibacterial hand soap. But once you deliver it and you show more value and you connect the brand with those consumers, they become loyal. And the real value in a company is that loyalty. I always like to tell people that ask me, I say, you know what, if Coca-Cola's headquarters burned down tomorrow, they could take that brand, that trademark, and they could walk out and borrow billions of dollars to rebuild it just because they have such a huge connection with consumers.
But it's also true, consumers are fickle, right? They don't really know what they want unless you tell them. So I noticed that you've done something new here with your new company, and it's really about knocking those big brands out, right? It's about taking those small brands and proving that, everybody who listens to this show, they might have a small brand, they have a chance against some of the big brands, right?
Well, yeah. What's happened in the consumer product world is that for the last, maybe 15 or 20 years, all these large companies kind of dominated the innovation that was going on in the marketplace. But what happened is then all these large companies, quarterly reports, quarterly profit, all that kind of stuff started to prevail. And so they started doing simple product development. So they started a new flavor or a new color or a new size. And all of a sudden consumers are going, you know what, you're not bringing anything to the table. But they kind of got in this rut. And what that did is open the door for a lot of entrepreneurs who had a better idea for a better product. So, and you see what's happening with gluten-free, you see what's happening with healthier beverages, you see what's happening with better skincare products. I mean, I could go on in the different categories, but it gives an opportunity for these small entrepreneurs to reach out to consumers in unique and more meaningful ways than what the large companies have been doing for the last 15 or 20 years. And if you really look back, all the real big innovations that's coming out these days is really being driven by small companies. And a lot of those small companies are being bought by the larger companies because it becomes an innovation factory for some of these large operators.
Sure. The make-buy decision, right? I mean, new and improved can only go so far. You can only put that on your website so many times, right?
Exactly. And at the end of the day, consumers want something that works better and that makes their life simpler, easier, more cost-effective, or gives them more free time.
How do they know it works better?
Well,
marketing.
Yeah, it's the old-fashioned, Procter & Gamble. If you remember how Procter & Gamble used to always do their advertising, it's demonstration. You show people that it works better. That's why sampling is so great at a retail store. You see all the people, whether it be at Costco or at Ralph's or wherever they are, you'll see people out there sampling all the time. And it's because when you taste it and you get a feeling for the texture and things like that, oh, that's different. I'll try that. And demonstration is an incredibly powerful motivator.
I thought that's how Brien Johnson gets lunch every day, but maybe I could be wrong.
I'm still waiting to get my leather jacket that I can wear in the rain to see if it works. No one's giving me a sample of that. So obviously it depends on the product or service. I mean, I don't think I get although I definitely do believe and agree with you that sampling is probably the best way to introduce any new product or service to somebody who's never experienced. Because for somebody to actually make the commitment to buy something is different than actually trying it and not having any responsibility if they don't like the product or service.
Exactly. And if you go out, you can go to any farmer's market on the weekend, and you'll see that people are out there trying new things. They've come up with some sort of a recipe or something, and they're at a farmer's market, and they're out there sampling to see if it makes sense. It's a great way to find out if your idea makes any sense.
Right.
And so we have a lot of people that they say, well, how can I just go test it? I said, well, don't pay for a test. Get a booth at a farmer's market. Go out there and sample it and listen. Don't just hand it out and walk away. Listen to what they're saying. Maybe give them a little survey. Say, hey, I'll give you a free sample. I'll give you a sample take home if you'll fill out this little survey. So there's a lot of ways you can do product testing in our world that can be very cost effective if you're just a small single operator, but can be very effective as well.
So that's one of the best practices, right, that a small business should do. Sample there rather than spend the money on focus groups and things. Go out there and really try it, see if people like it, and they'll buy it. What other best practices should people do, especially for a small entrepreneurial company trying to either compete with a bigger company or eventually getting acquired?
Well, I think there's a couple things more than anything else is, I hear a lot of times, people talking about, well, we're just going to try and get our revenue up and then we're going to try and sell because so-and-so big company is going to buy us. And I said, well, at the end of the day, the so-and-so big company also is going to have to make money after they acquire you because they're going to give you some of that forward profits that you're trying to take off the table. And so what you need to really do is make sure you have your financial summaries together, because when you build your product, some people build in so much quality, you can't replicate it. You can't make enough. There's not enough margin in it to go forward for you to afford to do sampling, to afford to do advertising, to afford to put it on a shelf at a retailer. And so one of the things I often tell entrepreneurs at the very beginning is make sure you have a strong margin. Make sure you're looking at how you're going to build this product, and if you're going to scale it, can you continue to keep it at the quality, the consistency, and depending if you're doing food or beverage, at the safety that's going to be required for you to build a sustainable business long term.
Do you have an estimate of what you think a minimal profit margin needs to be on a product or service to be able to scale it?
Yeah, I would tell you it depends on in each category that you're in because of the marketing investment that's going to be required. But in food or beverage, as an example, we always tell people you need to be probably in that 40, even 50% gross margin before, all those, I'm assuming your listeners know the difference. 40 to 50 gross margin. On health and beauty, the marketing costs are so much higher, because of the branding and all that kind of stuff. We usually tell people you have to be over 50%. Yeah. We usually tell them 50 to 60%. If you're trying to build a business on a 20% gross margin, you're going to struggle. Because even depending on how big you are, even Procter & Gamble has gross, SG&A in the 6 to 7% range. But any small business is going to have it anywhere for at least 10 to 15, and when you're really small, it's going to be 20 to 25%. So you got to be over that threshold just to be able to know that you can make money on a sustainable basis.
Yeah. Now, your background is primarily in B2C, correct?
Well, correct. I mean, mostly consumer products, going through retailers and online and things like that.
So, but for service, you probably can have, your percentages can be different because you're actually performing labor services to perform. So I would think the percentages would be much different versus a product. Correct?
Depends on your distribution channel, though, too, right? B2C, there's a lot of distribution in between.
Correct.
Correct.
I think it matters on both. I mean, in some of the service businesses that we've been involved in things like that, because it depends on where they account for their labor costs and things like that, whether it's above the line, above the gross margin, or below the gross margin line. A lot of times they can operate at a little bit tighter gross margin because the costs are absorbed above the gross margin line, and their marketing costs may be lower in a B2B type of thing because it's more of a direct sales business or something like that.
Well, and then you have taxes with depreciation, but I don't want to get too involved right now. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM with our co-host Alex Grossman and Joe Jacober, and we're going to be right back.
Healthcare can be difficult if you're underinsured or have Medi-Cal. Samuel Dixon Family Health Center can help. Services are available on a sliding fee schedule. The mission of the Samuel Dixon Family Health Center is to give the Santa Clarita Valley access to affordable, quality primary care. There are 3 locations to serve you: Canyon Country, Newhall, and Valverde. Go to sdfhc.org for more information and to find the location most convenient for you.
Hi, I'm Steve Cruz, and my wife and I own the local pub and grill. With 19 70-inch TVs, it's the best place in the valley to catch a game. We have a vast selection of beer, wine, and specialty cocktails to choose from, including our charity ale, where 10% of every pint we sell goes to Carousel Ranch. Our menu features classics with a flavorful twist. Come by for Taco Trivia Tuesdays at 7, Wines Day for bingo and karaoke starting at 8 p.m., and karaoke every Saturday at 9. Local pub and grill, right next to Bevmo on the Old Road. Support local, support community.
Coming to the Canyon, Santa Clarita. War, Gin Blossoms, Tower of Power, the Magpie Salute featuring members of the Black Crows, Vince Neil of Motley Crue, Puddle of Mud, Buck Cherry, The Motels, Ambrosia, English Beat, former members of Oingo Boingo, Rita Coolidge, Berlin, Metalachi, Blue Oyster Cult, Nancy Wilson of Heart, Wilson Phillips, the Marshall Tucker Band, the Smithereens with special guest Marshall Crenshaw, Menopause the Musical, and much more. Plus, Thursdays are Ladies' Night, Sunday brunch in the lobby bar beginning at 12 noon, and the Canyon is the perfect place to host special events. So book your holiday party now. The Canyon, Santa Clarita, where music meets the soul. Tickets available through Ticketmaster.
Frontier Toyota has teamed up with Santa Clarita Sheriffs for this year's holiday toy drive. Spread joy to a child, bringing a new toy to Frontier Toyota on Valencia Boulevard and Creekside. Test drive Frontier Toyota's most enticing new models, including the exciting 2019 Camry. Frontier Toyota, no games, just great deals. Like the world's best-selling Tacoma truck, or test drive the 2019 Corolla. The Santa Clarita Sheriff Toy Drive and Frontier Toyota, a tradition of giving back to Santa Clarita.
It's the Gilchrist Farm Holiday Hoedown, December 8th and 9th. Catch the Holiday Horse and Rider Costume Parade on Saturday at 10 a.m. Your kids can play in the festive petting zoo with goats, pigs, bunnies, ducks, and chickens. There are pony rides, caroling wagon rides, handmade holiday food, crafts, festive music, and so much more. It's holiday magic at Gilchrist Farm, just a short ride up OK Canyon. The Holiday Hoedown at Gilchrist Farm, December 8th and 9th from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. Details at gilchristfarm.com.
There are 3 so-called superfoods you should never eat. They could be toxic to your body and might be draining your energy. You can learn how to avoid these superfoods and replace them with a healthy diet. Visit GetEnergy5.com to discover the key superfoods to avoid. Dr. Stephen Gundry, former cardiac surgeon and best-selling author, shares how you can become healthier and happier. GetEnergy5.com. That's GetEnergy5.com.
GetEnergy5.com.
KHTS. Now FM, 98.1 FM, and AM 1220, your hometown station.
Welcome back. I was going to go KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM, but they did that on already for me. I mean, what was this, pre-programmed? What's going on here? I don't know. I'm here with my co-host, Alex Grossman. Some people don't like that. And my guest, Joe Jacoba. Not my guest, the Ask Brien radio show guest, Joe Jacoba. You there, Joe?
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting into announcing. Anyway,
I think horse racing, maybe.
No, actually, I'm going to do the intros for boxing because I can do the Rockies theme and, you know, they do that long thing, history.
I like it. I like it.
Before the actually, right after the break, we were talking about your current company, and there's an event coming up called BevNet, and I don't know what it is, and our listeners don't know what it is. And can you explain what it is and when it is, and some information about that?
Yeah, BevNet takes place next Monday and Tuesday in Santa Monica. And what it is a gathering of primarily entrepreneurs and investors and companies in the beverage space. And it's really one of those types of things that it's a great opportunity for sharing and learning about what's going on in the industry and things like that. The one thing that we always tell people is that at the end of the day, you have to have connections to be successful. You're never going to be successful in the long run with a one-man band. And so organizations like BevNet and things like that, they bring those people together. They share best practices. They share ideas. They, you know, if you're looking for a way to maybe a better way to package your product, a better way to manufacture it, a better way to market, or something like that, it's a place where people go and they just share ideas. So it's 2 days of workshops and presentations of people that are all going through all the same things that you are every day, and they're sharing that together at this 2-day event.
Now, when you say beverages, that is just basically consumer-oriented, non-alcoholic beverages. Is that correct?
It's both. I mean, there is alcoholic beverages that are involved, but not as much. because what BevNet primarily focuses on is a lot of the new type of beverages that are coming out there. The healthier, the better for you, the different types of ingredients and things like that are going in the beverages that people are looking for, and they're talking about ways to use them and exploit them to the benefit of the consumer.
So that's where I would go if I want to take on Coca-Cola, right?
Let's not laugh about that, right? There's a lot of craziness going on with water and other things. But
I strongly recommend not taking on Coca-Cola directly. There's plenty of room on the shelves out there without having to go to battle with Coke.
I think things go better with Coca-Cola. Rather work with them than not.
So
competitively, maybe not.
Yeah. Have you launched any beverages in your career?
I have. I was a part of what was called China Mist Tea Company. And China Mist was a well-known restaurant brand for a long time. And when I took over as CEO of that company, we actually introduced a home brewing type of a tea. So there's many stores there in L.A. You can go into and buy a box, and you can brew restaurant-quality tea right at home now. And so, the old days of your mother putting a jar out in the patio are gone. It's like I tell folks. I mean, tea is like food. I don't remember my mother walking out and throwing a steak on the patio and telling me to come back in a few hours and eat it. And so I recommend against that, and I recommend against putting
different household than mine, huh? Okay.
Exactly.
Well, the dog would be happy with the steak on the patio.
Absolutely.
Exactly. That'd be the only person. And so, so we introduced a line of homebrewed teas for them, and that have gone over really well. In fact, I brew it nearly every day.
Yeah. What's sad, Joe, is that every product that you mentioned, from Pert to China Mist, of course, to Dial antibacterial, I have those in my house. My wife is a consumer. As far as consumers go, she's really up on what you've done there. So
well, Joe,
really
you've got your biggest fan sitting right next to me.
It's pretty sad.
What are the odds?
Well, we could go do an ethnographic study right in your own home and cover pretty much my entire career.
There we go.
Well, the target market is me. My co-host, Alex Grossman. So, currently you have a company, it's called Innovative Brands. Is that correct?
Innovative Brands Accelerator.
Okay, so what is the difference between Innovative Brands Accelerator and Innovative Brands in general, or we're talking cars and brakes, or what are we talking about, Accelerator?
No, what we do is we help any sort of consumer product company, and we, food, beverage, health and beauty, household and laundry, cosmetic type companies, and what we really try and help them do is, we help these small companies go from anywhere from $1 to $10 million to the point where they can get to become a $50 million consumer products company, and we've all done this, been there, done that a number of different times, our entire team, and what we do is we help answer the question, hey, Joe, I don't even know what question to ask you. And we really help them build the entire structure, the infrastructure, the ERP systems, which is the operating system inside a consumer products company, all the way to how they go and talk to Kroger versus Walmart versus Amazon, and really help them understand, how to build that out. So what I like to call, so you can play big. So while you don't compete directly with the Coca-Colas of the world, you can be in front of a retailer or an operator and look big enough that they can trust you and know that you can go to market in a strong way and have confidence when they buy from you and put it on their shelves. And so we do everything. It's an 18-month process. We run 3 6-month sprints, and each one of those 6-month sprints has specific action items that are building blocks for a successful consumer products company. And by the end of 18 months, we will be able to connect you with investors galore, private equity firms, et cetera, so that you can take your company to that next level.
So what's your criteria for getting a company into the Accelerator program?
Well, there's 2 things. One is the brand has to be able to connect to the consumer. Like I was telling you earlier, having that connection with consumers and having meaning and value to consumers is critically important. The second thing is they have to have meaning and value to a retailer. A lot of times people forget the role of retail in the consumer product business. So I've had many entrepreneurs say, hey, look, I'm in 60 Whole Food stores. I'm killing it. And I say, well, congratulations. But at the end of the day, Whole Foods' job is to put it on the shelf and take care of their customers. Your job is to pull it off that shelf. Right. And so what we really have to educate people on is how do you pull that product off the shelf? How do you keep that product moving on an ongoing basis? Because that's really what the consumer product company's job is to make sure they're consistently selling product for the retailers.
Or value pack. That's coupons. That's how to get it off the shelf. Now,
that's one.
Is there an application process for somebody that would want to join your program?
Yes. They go to our website and they submit their information, and then we actually send them a little 3 or 4 page application, pretty simple. Then they send that in, and then if it's something, because we know if we can help them or not. And so after about a week or so, we go through all the data and say, yeah, I think we can help you, and here's what we would do, and then we get started, and they enroll for the program, and then we go off from there.
So Joe, what'd you say the minimum size and what's the maximum size of a company that you would work with, and then what are the biggest challenges that they face? Is there something common they all face, and you've got this quote-unquote 3-step program to do that? How does that work?
Well, the minimum size is usually about $1 million in sales. And the reason for that is if you're doing $1 million, you prove that there's a connection with the consumer. Because we're not an incubator. An incubator is a firm that really helps you develop your product and refine it and things like that. Now, we can help you with the manufacturing of it and things like that, but you've proven at $1 million that there's consumers that are interested in buying your product. And then we kind of top it out at maybe $10 million at the most, because when you start getting up into the $20 million sales range, you should be able to hire your staff to move this business ahead, or you're probably really spinning your wheels more than we could even help you with. And I would tell you that there's a couple things that is the most important thing that we run into all the time, and it's really set upon the infrastructure of the company. Like any good business, you have to build, step by step, platform by platform, your way to the top. There is no instant success story really in business. We all know, it's trial and error, and do your best and find out what's going on, and then you adapt, and then you continue to grow. And so the two things we do is make sure they have that platform, because you're going to have mistakes. Now, we're going to help you avoid those mistakes with our experience. I mean, I think that's the key value of why people come to us, because we've already made a lot of those mistakes. We don't want to make them again, and we help you avoid those mistakes that can be costly. But what you really want to make sure is you have that platform to build on. So we have an ERP system that we use and that we try and get all of our companies on. And it's basically the system, it's the financial, the reporting, it's the way you engage, in process orders with retailers and things like that, to help these companies grow. So what we find, and the vast majority of people apply to us, they're using QuickBooks, which is great. And we've used QuickBooks in many different startups and things like that. But you're never going to get to $50 million, in my opinion, just trying to manage a business with QuickBooks. They don't have the management data. They don't have the financial reporting.
Sorry. Well, Brian's laughing here because I got to $44 million in my business on QuickBooks, the last one.
Hold on. Not everyone knows what ERP is, so please define that.
Well, it's the efficient response programs that you use for consumer product companies. And what I'm talking about is consumer product companies, sure. Alex. And it's because the reality is that the reporting and things like that is much different, because you're talking about two phases of the company. You got the consumer side and you got the retailer side. So while you guys are telling me that I'm primarily been involved in B2C, really there's a B2B aspect of consumer products, which is when you're dealing with the grocery stores or the Walmarts or the Amazon and things like that. That's really a B2B thing. And you have to have the system in place to be able to deal with all those different types of situations.
Well, without giving away the secret sauce, I want to ask a question. Mm-hmm. So let's say I have $1 million brewery or $1 million drinking business, juice or something, fresh juice, and I want to get into one of these big companies. Yep. You don't have to tell me Walmart or Costco or whatever, but obviously you get in there, you're set for life. Now the question is, how does that process work, and how could somebody try to approach that?
Okay, good question. I get that question a lot. And the first thing is that you got to remember that retailers do not set their shelves based on you coming to them with a great new idea.
That's right.
Retailers only set their shelves maybe once, maybe twice a year. Sometimes they do little updates around, if something's not moving, they'll pull something out and put something out back in. But you got to know when their category reviews are. Because they're not going to be open to talking to you if they just finished their category review in September and you want a meeting in November, they're not going to talk to you until probably next June about what their category is going to be. So that's the number one thing. The second thing you need to do is you need to understand what is that buyer trying to accomplish in his category. Every retailer has a reason and a status for each of their categories. So, one store may be more focused on, personal care items. One may be more focused on, grocery items. One may be more focused on beverages. And then you have to go in and look at how are they trying to merchandise and market their categories to their consumers. And then what you do is you have to align your brand to what the retailer's category strategy is. And you got to know that. You got to spend some time learning it and understanding it, and then be able to converse with them on it, because that's key. Then the last thing is then going in and understanding how they make money. I don't know if you've ever talked to anybody that's ever called on Walmart, but you start every Walmart meeting that's out there with a review of their scorecard. And if you try and start a meeting without going over the scorecard, which is all numbers, there's no pictures, there's no nothing, it's all numbers, they won't even talk to you. The buyer will just say, no, bring out your scorecard. And you want to talk about something else, it doesn't matter. If you haven't gone over their scorecard and you understand specifically how they make money in the category that you're dealing with, they're not even going to talk to you. So you have to it takes a lot of time to understand each one of those retailer scorecards, and you need to make sure you understand it inside and out, because you're going to be part of their business now. They're going to rely on you to help grow their category. And so you have to be prepared to talk to those retailers in their language.
Joe, I really respect what you do. I've dabbled in that area, of course, with consumer electronics in the high-tech industry, which is maybe not even as aggressive as what you're talking about there, but having worked with Walmart and Sam's Club and Fry's Electronics and some others out there, including Best Buy and even before that some others, it's really you really have to know the path. I mean, you can have the greatest product in the world, say the wrong thing in that first meeting, and you're done. And
exactly.
So as a company, you're not a one-man show, right? You've got all the disciplines covered. You walk in, you figure out where they need the help, and you have the people to manage it. Is that generally the way you do it?
Well, we have the people to help guide them down that path. What we really try and do is the one thing that we found in this business is that entrepreneurs, they want to own and manage their own companies. That's why they did it. I mean, we've all done the corporate route. We've all had punched the clock and done those different types of things. What makes entrepreneurs different is they want to make something happen. And so what we do is we really embed ourselves in their management team to really prop them up and support them. So we don't run the company for them. We are probably going to be, for 18 months, we're probably going to be their best friend. We're going to be their mentor. We're going to be their teacher. But we're not going to run the company for them. And that's really key for us. And so what we really do is really support their efforts to making their brand successful in the marketplace.
And what is your compensation?
Well, we have a small monthly fee that we charge them, which is no more expensive than what it would cost you to hire a person on your staff. And then what we do is we ask them to share in the form of warrants, which is like I don't know how much your listeners know about warrants and things like that, but it's just like having a little piece of the company. But the reason we do warrants instead of just plain stock is that if we don't have an impact on their company, we don't share in the reward in it. That's the beauty of a warrant, because it's set at the value that you set it at the very beginning of our engagement. However, if we do have a big impact on their company and we're successful with them, then we do get a chance to share in that upside, because the warrant will have increased in value, and then we get a little kicker at the end of the program because of that. Yeah,
I think that's a great analysis. Warren, I kind of feel is very similar to a stock option for listeners. So if they don't understand, warrant is basically if the stock price is $80 a share, you can have a warrant to buy it at $85 a share, and so therefore if it goes above $85, you can share in it. But it's not an option contract where you actually have to you actually purchase the warrant, and the warrants are actually traded on the stock market. But that's a little bit above many people's pay grades here, so we're not going to get too involved in that. Now, can you give us a case study? We're going to have to come back, so you can give us a little study here, a case study of a product or service that started with $1 million and has been very successful.
Well, there's a ton of products that have been out there that started at $1 million. And we actually started Liquid Dial as an example with zero revenues and things like that. But when we started at China Mist with the retail product, the Brew at Home product, that was a product that we started with zero that we took to a whole new sales level, and it turned out to be a great opportunity for that particular company. But there's a lot of companies you can talk about. Even like the coconut water, it's crazy that you see out there. There's a new thing with these thin, crisp cookies that have been a whole new category that's come in that nobody's ever done. The Biscos of the world skipped over. You could pretty much go down any aisle of any grocery store or mass merchandiser today and find an example of somebody that was a small company startup that's had a lot of success.
And we have about a minute left before we're going to take our break. So, companies that you have started on your own. Do you know of any companies that you have started on your own that have been like that?
Well, when we acquired Pert Plus and Shure, they were businesses that were out there. I am not the kind of entrepreneur myself that starts from scratch. I've tried, and I didn't enjoy that process as much as I enjoy the building process. So for me personally, I've spent very little time on new to the world products like that from scratch. And that's part of the reason why we don't make the promises of what an incubator does. But I think that Pert and Shure, when we acquired them, and from the time we acquired them to when we sold them, we more than doubled the sales of what it was from what we acquired it from P&G, and it was a function of doing the same discipline and rigor around what we're talking about today with our accelerator that we would bring to these companies as well. Same exact process.
We're going to be right back after this break.
Olive Terrace Bar and Grill is the hottest new Mediterranean fusion restaurant in Santa Clarita with unique delicacies like seafood right off the boat, mouth-watering prime steaks, artesian sandwiches, delicious pastas, and tasty kebabs. Unwind on their cozy outdoor patio at their weekend champagne brunch, full menu, and weekly specials at oliveterracebarandgrill.com. Check out their full bar and happy hour daily specials in Valencia on Copper Hill and Newhall Ranch Road by LA Fitness. Olive Terrace Bar and Grill, delicious food seasoned with love.
If you're in danger of losing your home to foreclosure, you need an expert. Hi, I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty. I've helped hundreds of Santa Clarita residents save their homes completely for free. I've got just over 20 years experience and a loan modification success rate of over 80%. I can negotiate better terms with your bank, and I can save your home from foreclosure. And again, we do this completely for free. So if you're in any danger, please call me today at 661-714-1400. That number again is 661-714-1400. I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty. I'll be happy to help you save your home for free.
Santa Clarita's public junior highs and high schools are some of the best in the nation. Who makes that claim? How about U.S. News and World Report naming all of the high schools in the top 10% in the country? How about Hart District students scoring 20 percentage points higher on standardized tests than their peers across the county and state? And when it comes to athletics, performing arts, and great teachers, no other schools can compete. These schools are part of our community. They are part of our lives. Enrich your students' life with the schools of the Hart School District.
Join us at our 4th annual community tree lighting at the Valencia Marketplace on Thursday, December 6th from 5 to 8 p.m. The celebration will feature entertainment by choirs from area schools, Magic Castle magician Dennis Farrell. Our KHTS fire truck's going to be on scene along with Santa Claus, who's going to be available for photos and to greet children. Tree lightings at 7 p.m. and bring an unwrapped toy as we kick off our annual Sheriff Toy Drive. So join us December 6th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Valencia Marketplace on the Old Road in Stevenson Ranch.
With the safe disposal of waste from our homes in the Santa Clarita Valley, Chiquita Canyon Landfill is able to create enough green energy to power 10,000 homes each year. So you can feel good that the waste from your home in the SCV is helping create a clean energy source and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Chiquita Canyon Landfill is our partner in sustainable living.
Chiquita Canyon is helping lead the way to a greener future.
Santa Clarita's hometown station. Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
Welcome back, and here is my wonderful co-host, Alex Grossman, and he's back. That was very quick.
Someone's got to be back.
Somebody's got to be back. Well,
check out the rain outside.
Except we're proactive. We only move forward, and it's amazing that everything that we're talking about is everything that Ask Brien is all about. Do not reinvent the wheel. Why go through the process if somebody else can help you out? And that's actually a very interesting theme that has been transpiring here. I have a question for our guest. His name is Joe Jacoby. He's had great history, done a lot with a lot of different companies, all the way from Dial antibacterial soap all the way through China Mist Tea to now has his own accelerator, innovative brands. Now, my question to you is, besides money and marketing, what is the most important thing you need to build a successful brand?
I think there's a couple things that are going to be key to that. I think the most important, people always ask me, if there's one thing you're going to do more than marketing, what would it be? I always say it's work on the product. Make sure your product is absolutely outstanding, totally delivering on the promise that you want to make to that customer. And when you're doing that, you got to make sure it's consistent. So you don't want to have somebody, buy a cleaner from you, and one day it works great, and the next day they put too much water in it, and so it's not effective. And so you got to make sure that product is always performing, and that you have a way to continually repeat that process. Your product has to be consistently good, and I think that's critical to the success of a brand.
And what about innovating that product?
New and improved.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's not just new and improved. It's how do you add additional value. So it's not just tweaking it a little bit. I mean, what people don't know is from the time that I introduced Liquid Dial to the time that we were selling it nationally, we actually changed the formula 4 or 5 times, and we never made a claim on it. We just continued to improve it, continued to make it better, all with the idea that we continue to meet the needs of those consumers. So you don't always have to slap new and improved on it. In fact, sometimes new and improved will scare a consumer away because, oh my gosh, you changed my product.
Sure.
Sometimes you just new and improve it because that's what you need to do to be competitive, is to keep your product at the forefront of performance or flavor or whatever it might be.
You mean like New Coke in 1985?
There we go.
That was a good idea, huh?
Yeah. No, that's really exciting. I mean, realistically, you have to keep innovating. I come at it at a high-tech world, and we're just like that all the time. Constant innovation, right? And a lot of times we roll new software in, we make changes, we make updates. We don't announce those updates. We consider them bug changes, but for the most part, there's a lot of rules around revenue recognition that has to do with that, but we are constantly rolling in new innovative pieces, and people get it, and it just works better than it ever did. But I think your point of someone buys it the first time because of the marketing, they continue to buy it because it actually works. They tell their friends try that, and there's a lot of word of mouth that goes on, and people continue to buy it. And sometimes I think you can make changes that negatively impact the product as well. And so those things I think are really important. It seems like something like your accelerator, being able to give people the right idea or have them not go down that path, as Brien always says, if someone else has done it right better than you are thinking about it, you should take their word for it. So sometimes even if someone is $1 million to $10 million and they're doing well, but they they think they're going on the right track. I mean, I would have loved to, in my business, had someone to bounce it off, even if it cost me a certain amount of money to do that. I would have loved to know I'm going down the right path, or even to help me accelerate faster, even if I'm not failing, right? Would have been great.
Right. And have that roadmap for where you're going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, because that's really the key. You don't want to build a business just to make money in the next 6 months. You want your business to last 3, 5, 7 years. And so you want people around you that can help you do that, that'll help be honest with you and really understands the value that you're trying to bring to your product and understand how to get you there in the long run.
Sure.
Okay, so you mentioned marketing and you mentioned quality. What's the third most important factor for a brand?
We're making Brand a stool here. I can tell we got 3 legs.
Hey, I love to challenge my guests.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would tell you that it's making sure that you have a sustainable team in your business, because at the end of the day, any successful business, like you talked about, you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel or anything like that. And so if you can put together a strong team behind your business, and you have the right people that you can trust. There's a book by Stephen Covey about the speed of trust.
Right.
If you can have people around you that you can trust, you can operate so much faster and so much smarter if you have a good team like that. If you're always just penny wise and pound foolish on the people you're bringing to the table, and you can never trust those people because you don't know if they're saying it for their own personal good or because they really care about your business. You could be at big risk. And so what I always tell people, I think your team could be one of the most critical things that you ever make your decision on as you're growing.
And that's why my team consists of myself and the wonderful Alex Grossman. Yeah! And that's our show. Thank you very much. This is the Ask Brien, AskBrien.com, 1220 AM, 98.1 FM. Thank you. Till next week.